Yeah, welcome back to the Cocoa Digest Morning Show. If you're just tuning in, this is the Cocoa Digest Morning Show, and we're about to have our news review with two of my co-hosts in the persons of Miss Miriam Abnadidi and Mr. Clement Yaban Kwe. Hello. Yes, you're already here to explain the motivational quotes, but of course, how are we doing?
Great. How about you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, Yara, during the motivational quotes, I said you look so beautiful. And
Thank you,
I might say, the one sitting at my right side looks so beautiful.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if today, because she's hosting the national press pasta of Winners Chapel International Ghana.
Yeah, she's even looking the part.
Yes, yes. Look, since it's all in line with celebrating the general of the Most High.
Anytime I find myself in my domain,
Okay.
spiritual domain,
Okay.
I'm able to
Good,
know
yeah.
enlarge,
I can see that.
And so I'm not giving this
Don't give us gaba.
I'm going to give it to you back to back. But I mean, it is a beautiful day. I mean, I'm happy that Clock TV, we are joining hands with the world to celebrate a great man like Bishop David Oyedepo. When we look at his contributions to society, education, life, a whole lot. He's done a lot for the countries he has his churches in. I think he's worth celebrating.
Yes, definitely. We are looking forward to that interview. We will be seated, we'll be glued to our sets here. Of course, before that, we need to talk about what's trending. And of course, I know you have gone to find hot news to bring to us this morning.
So, Yara, let me start with this. Regarding 2024 elections, in Ashanti region, particularly the Menchia, one of the constituencies of Menchia, NPP, during the exhibition exercise, they realized that some of the voters has been transferred to other places without prior notice. So they went to court. That's the High Court in Kumasi. And the High Court, I think that was yesterday or last 2 days, the judge made a ruling that Electoral Commission should make sure that such 580 transferred voters illegally from the Menchia be returned back. They should just reverse such transfer. I think, one, it's a good news. We are still in the electoral process. We are still hoping to see that of the NDC that they talked about and see the way forward. Yes, and I must say what Mimi talked about. We all are joining hands with the Winners Chapel International to celebrate the Bishop David Oyedepo. I might say he is a man that people must follow. In Africa, I would say he is the richest man of God in Africa, and he has the largest auditorium so far. That's the Ark Temple they are building, and he's a man of God that people need to emulate. That is what I must say.
Right. So I would also like to add up to Clement's first story, which has to do with the transparency of the EC. I think it is a good cause that is going to help those that are tensed up, those that are thinking of initiating protests with regards to the transparency of the Electoral Commission. It is going to bring down that tension, and I think EC is doing a good job. We have to commend them for that. And then, just as he said, we are hosting the national, pasta for the Winners Chapel here in the studio later in the day. But I also have a trending story here that talks about the resignation of ECG boss himself. So a few hours into today, we heard or we saw that the managing director of the electricity company Ghana, Samuel Dubik, has resigned as the managing director of ECG. And from sources, we are hearing that he was forced to resign because he has underperformed his role as a managing director. So this is what a lot of people are talking about. But one thing that is raising concern is the fact that, well, for some time, we haven't experienced power outages, popularly known as doom so.
Yeah.
And this was during his regime. Now that he's resigning, people are asking, his successor, is it going to be able to maintain that? Because yesterday we had a nationwide flash out. Let me put it that way.
Well, I think my neighborhood was fine.
Estate people.
Estate, you have no
But,
idea.
you know, major parts
Yeah,
of Ghana
yeah.
went off yesterday for some time, and a lot of people were saying, could this be that since he resigned, he has taken some of the power away?
Oh.
There are lots of
Goodness.
things
That's
people can-
funny.
But I mean, the most important thing is whoever is going to succeed him should do better than what
Yes.
he did.
Yeah. And there was another trend, but let me say a little bit about ECG boss. The question is, why now? Why now? You could
He
have
was forced.
forced. You could have done this some days and months ago. If you really want to protect your integrity, you
Well,
could have done
Clement,
that
you see,
some few.
For him, maybe he thought he was doing his best.
His best.
Right.
Okay.
And there was nothing that would tell him to resign, because this is something that brings food on my table, a job that I'm doing to be paid at the end of the day. Why should I resign? You get
Okay.
it?
So I think Express Update will follow the story and update viewers on moving forward the subsequent stories. But I must say there's a trend, and that's last Tuesday we talked of the fact that CLOCSAG is hosting a program, and the intention of the program is for civil servants to understand why they should be neutral in terms of their political affiliation. And the program was so awesome. We brought viewers the live streaming of such a program. I know viewers learned a lot, but there was one thing I learned from Professor Jampo, and I might say, Professor Jampo said that, one, politics is not something that we think it is outwardly. He made an instance that everybody on this earth that is involved in politics in one way or the other. Even if you take decision on behalf of someone, you are involved, you are into politics. But his point where he drew the line was the fact that civil servants are not supposed to be seen on various parties' campaign stages. You shouldn't be wearing any party colors. Don't let people see that you are indeed for this political party. But aside that, as he said, even a union member or a union leader, you are also into politics. Why? Because you are acting in favor of the members. So we just want viewers to understand that, yes, we are in election year, and if you didn't get to watch this program, you can go to YouTube of Clock TV. It's still there. When you go to Facebook, it's still there. You can get access to this. It was very insightful, I might say, and learn something for yourself since we're in the election year.
One exciting thing I also want to add up that I learned from Professor Jampo was that, you see, when it comes to the civil service, you find a lot of old people, you know, aged people who have not gotten to their pension yet, and they are still there working. And then somebody will be transferred or brought into the system, a very young, vibrant person, to take up some leadership roles. Yet this person is supposed to understudy the aged you find there. And so he made, you know, a profound statement that if you are brought into an institution or a ministry, you need to humble yourself and understudy these people. Listen to everything they tell you. Take them as your, you know, guide.
Sure.
And if you are humble enough, you are going to, you know, sail through. And I think it was a very good statement.
Very good statement. Yara, before you go in, let me say the last thing. CLOCSAG did very well for awarding an outstanding staffs for contributing to the progress of the nation. And that sign it's a sign of motivation to other staffs who need to contribute their quota to the development of Ghana. And I believe we should say that CLOCSAG has really done well.
Thank you very much. So I was going to add that I also picked up a very, you know, profound statement, even though I might just be paraphrasing, but more of an interpretation of what he said, that basically your loyalty to your political party affiliations or whatever should not be to the detriment of the civil service. You may be so loyal to party A or party B, but don't make it to the point where it is undermining your work, because the civil service is the pillar of our society or even of our government. So our viewers, all of those who are in the civil service, I know you are party faithfuls. Yes, you are allowed to be. We have the freedom of association. But please make sure it is not to the detriment of the civil service, of your job, of our nation as well. So let's take one comment from our very own Obiba Wilson, he says, welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to your distinguished viewers. Obiba Wilson is here watching live from Kumasi, and I must say that the weather here is perfect for taking cocoa this morning. Right after this, I'm going to take mine too, so I'll be joining you. Yes, so what do you have on your newspaper, your digital newspaper that now people don't hold? Hey, what about
So we are
moving forward?
exactly. So yeah, I have the graphic business, and that's from 24th to 30th, as you know. And the front page of the graphic business, it says lifeline for SMEs. That's government provide cheaper funding sources for SME. Let me just read the first paragraph. It says that small and medium scale enterprises can now access a large pool of funds under a special initiative instituted by government to enable players in that sector to access support to scale up their businesses and cement their status as the growth engine of the economy. I think this is a good thing that the government has introduced. When you go to the last, that's the third paragraph, it says that this initiative is at the interest rate of 9%, and it's so nice because we know that loan for individuals ranges around 26% interest rate, 28% interest rate, but for the SMEs, it's 9%. And someone will ask why. It's because the government wants SMEs to get access to loans, to finance or to fund their everything that they do, and it's going to boost the economy. And lastly, it says that the individual can access an amount between 150,000 Ghana cedis to 2 million Ghana cedis. So SMEs, those listening to us, they can access loan from any of this initiative that they have introduced as within 150,000 Ghana cedis to 2 million Ghana cedis.
So are there any, terms and conditions that?
Oh yes, there will definitely be.
So
yes.
Is there any way to inform us about it before? Because if we rush to it and we go and find out we're not eligible, because when these things come out, there's a frenzy around it, but they need to also give us the terms and conditions that apply, so that rush would now be tended a little.
Well, I also want, before you look for that, I also want to add something small. I think it is a good cause that government has embarked on. I think a few months ago they made a promise that they were going to, settle these SMEs with some funds to support their business, which is good. But looking at the amount that is being given out, I think owners of these SMEs should know the kind of businesses that will thrive before they go in for the loans. They shouldn't just, as you're saying, rush and get the money and then they become stranded. They don't know what to do exactly that is going to bring in or generate more revenue for them. So I think they should also look at that. That is my concern, because each and every time, we hear government, bringing up policies to support, these small businesses, yet it doesn't end anyway. It doesn't go anywhere. People, end up being indebted to government, and then it doesn't help. So I think.
Well, I could argue with you about that every business, one way or another, is needed. As much as some may thrive better than some, we can't just also tell these owners of the SMEs to know what business will thrive, because, you have a passion. We each have passions. And maybe somebody's passion is to sell maybe firewood. And firewood may not be as needed these days, maybe here in the city, as it would be in the village. But there may be a certain market for firewood at certain times of the year. So when you tell someone like that they should know which kind of business, it may not rub off well on them. It may rub off wrongly, because it may look as though you are not giving their business the value that it needs or is required. If I'm making any sense.
I didn't use the right term. They should find their interest and then pursue it.
Okay.
That will rather help. Because if you end up doing something you're not passionate about, you're going to
Yes.
You are likely to run out of it.
Yes, you will. And just adding up small to this, before I talk about, people might ask, what is the source of funding? Because we know they are saying we have a lot of economic crisis in the country, but this amount of money being invested in this SME Go initiative, what is the source of funding? But before I go to the source of funding, I just want to say something. You see, in business, we have to do what we call the feasibility analysis.
Yes.
So if you are going to sell firewood, you should know that this firewood, is it needed at this point in time? That is when Mimi's point comes in. People start business, for example, you are selling phones, and this iPhone you saw, you are selling it at a place, you know that their net salary is just 2,000, or their net salary is just 1,000 cedis. How do you expect someone like that to buy an iPhone which costs about 13,000 Ghana cedis? How does it, how would it, it's not be possible. So feasibility analysis is needed. That is why Mimi said that people going for such loan, at the end of the day, they run at a loss. They don't even know how to repay back. If viewers would remember, the time we had a talk with one of the banks on the business update segment, we asked the manager about how one can manage his loan and be able to repay back. Such education is also there. People can go and just check it out. But let me just quickly bring the source of funding. It's not only government who is funding this initiative. We have the Ghana Enterprise Agency and Ghana Exchange Bank with 7 million Ghana cedis. Sorry, 700 million Ghana cedis.
Wow.
That's what they are supporting the government with. And Development Bank Ghana is also supporting with 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. The International Finance Corporation of World Bank is also committing an amount of 400 million United States dollars to this very initiative. African Development Bank has pledged 40 million United States dollars to this initiative. And the government of Ghana has also, let me just get a figure, well, they have also contributed a significant amount to this very initiative, of which I'll get to viewers very soon and also bring them updates on the business update segment.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We have a comment here from Rose Entertainment. Good morning to you all. Charles watching from Dubai. Good morning to you all the way in Dubai. Thank you for tuning in. So Mimi, what story do you have? Which newspaper do you have on your phone?
Okay, so I have with me the Daily Graphic, today's Daily Graphic, and on the front page we have a lot of stories making headlines. So Students Loan Trust Fund disburses 20 million Ghana cedis to students, and that is on page 13. Winner takes all system must stop, except experts advocate. That is also on page 13. 32 journalists, media houses nominated for awards. I think that has to do with the GJA awards that is coming up. That is also on page 16. And our major story is Security Council needs overhaul. Structure deficient in addressing global challenges. And this is from President Akufo-Addo at the UN General Assembly. And let me read excerpts from it so we can continue. So President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has reiterated his call for an urgent overhaul of the United Nations Security Council, describing its current structure as outdated, unrepresentative, and insufficient to address the global challenges of today's world. Speaking at the 79th session of the UN General Assembly in New York, the United States of America, the Ghanaian leader emphasized the need for inclusivity and fairness within the Council, arguing that the existing framework was no longer fit for purpose. So the continuation is on page 3, but because of time, we'll just leave it here. But I think President Nana Addo Dankwa is just calling for an intensive examination of the UN Security Council. We all know their role is to maintain global peace around the world. And some arguments the president raised were the fact that we all saw the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on other countries, especially African countries. And the UN Security Council has failed to intervene in the situation. And also we see the one that also happened in Gaza, the distractions, the wars here and there. He's also saying that is a continuation of unresolved issues that the UN Security Council was supposed to step in to maintain the peace for the people. So basically, that is what the story is about.
And it seems as though when there are certain powers, these countries are sort of ranked based on their financial power and even military power. So with something like Russia being involved in a war against Ukraine, it seems as though the UN is not able to do anything. But let's Ghana start fighting with Togo and let's see. You would see that, the perpetrators would just get arrested. You would find them going to the International Court of Justice, all these things that the UN is supposed to do. So it begs the question that what makes these other countries so different that there is not much or not enough rigorous intervention with these things like the Ukraine-Russia war or even Israel and Palestine? Why isn't there that much, intervention or rigorous intervention, even punishments or some sanctions, or even just coming to the aid of the people? It's not as rigorous as we usually get when it's certain countries that are going through that, or when, especially even sometimes when these wars are proxy wars. So maybe Russia is using some other country to fight Ukraine too. You see that the UN is not able to. So, with that story, I think it's our president was talking about the fact that there are 5 countries that get to veto certain decisions.
And we have the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, and France.
So now, in a situation where Russia is part of the 5 countries that can veto decisions, what does that mean then? In a situation where Russia is fighting another country about, I think the NATO issue, yes. So in a situation like this, what then can the UN do? This veto issue? Because I remember, I think back in school, when we were learning about this, there was also a suggestion that the veto country should be rotated every few years so that the power is not monopolized or something of the sort. But then we just hope that our president's appeal would be, taken into consideration. But knowing what we know, I don't have a lot of hope.
We don't know what we know.
I think the president's call is mainly for a Security Council that fits the purpose of today's world.
Okay.
Right? Maybe when these veto power countries were put together, during those times, we didn't experience these wars here and there. And today we are finding ourselves in. I would argue that too.
Well, the UN's formation, from what I remember at school, all of that came mainly, was it after so something about the Treaty of Westphalia? If my lecturers, please forgive me.
So it was established
one of the wars.
in 1945.
Yes, so that was after the Second World War.
Yes, exactly.
Where the countries decided to come together to achieve global peace. And now, as to the selection, what the criteria for the countries that were to have this veto power, I think it involves, because if you look at, these are sort of the powers. They have the military power, like I mentioned, the finances and things like that. So it looks as though it was based on a certain kind of advantage they have over others.
Yeah.
And now this advantage they have, how long till it is twisted into something else? I think that's why I understand our president's appeal for a change in the structure. Because, like we said, Russia is here, engaged in a war, and it's almost as though there's not much being done about it. But if it was another country like Ghana engaged in war against Togo, you would see that whichever parties support Ghana or Togo would come in. And even if they don't support, they would be able to try to come and settle the issue where they would prosecute. So if there's, let's say, a military coup or something, you would see that quickly, because we don't have the power to say, no, don't interfere in our issues. And then also, we don't have that much power to be able to do certain things that might undermine our foreign policy to some of these countries, like especially the Big Five, I would call it, you see.
So I think it's a good cause, and we will talk more about it moving forward, this very issue. So
well, we have more comments. We have John Boating. He says, good morning. Good morning to you too, John. And then Obiba Olsen also says he followed the online stream. He says, I follow the online stream and I love the presentation of Professor Jampo. God richly bless him and the organizers. Thank you very much for your comment. So, do we have any other news on
No.
the Daily Graphic or Business? Okay, so for the online news, the very first story says the LI, which permits mining in forest reserves, is a bad law. Repeal it immediately. This is from the Nature and Development Foundation. So Mustafa Seydu, the director of the Nature and Development Foundation, calls for a repeal of Environmental Protection Regulation 2022 LI 2462, allowing mining in forest reserves. He deems it a bad law contradicting Ghana's green environment policies and agreements. Seydu made this plea at a forum on combating galamsey, which is illegal mining, citing concerns over deforestation, pollution, and climate change. The foundation said, there is a legal regime in mining in first reserve, and it is an infamous law because it is a bad law. He further noted that there was an unprecedented mad rush for leases to mine in first reserves following the passage of that law. It is a reversal of all our international commitment for sustainable forest management, for climate change policies, and to ensure that we have a green environment. Is it forest or pest?
I think, Yara, this LI issue, well, the last time, I think about 2 weeks ago, I made reference to it in relation to this galamsey thing, that some might say that it's part of the largely involvement of galamsey activities in Ghana. And the enactment of such LI was in the year 2022, November 2022. That was when the LI actually became a law. And it has, I don't know, but I feel like a lot has been said since then. In November 2023, civil society organizations raised concern about this same LI, that it needs to be revoked because it's giving access to people to our forest reserve, which initially wasn't so. To an extent that they raised a concern about the Cape Coast Kakum forest, where those days, when you hear about it, like that kind of thing, you really want to go there. We heard in the news line some few years ago that people even wanted to mine over there, that individuals, chiefs and citizens of Cape Coast said no to that very activity. Civil society organizations were talking about such issue. And when you go to their site, they raise a particular concern. That was somewhere last year, 2023. They said, as at last year, 2023, November, they've given license to about 6 companies, mining companies, license to them, and they were mining in this forest reserve. I wanted to get the names of those forests, but I will get moving forward. And they got to know this thing is going to affect the country negatively if steps are not taken. And that is what we see now. My question is, why are they all talking about the LI? Because if LI was really passed into law and the parliament, after going through it, didn't see anything wrong with it, and has been passed into law, why now civil societies are raising a lot of concern about this same LI? Miara, I took time to personally look through this LI for myself, and let me I might say that there is an issue in court. As at September 14th, 6 organizations and the media against galamsey, that's Media Coalition Against Galamsey, the convener is also part of such people. And what are they saying? What they are saying is that government is supposed to amend the LI as soon as possible. Parliament is supposed to sit on it as soon as possible. Why? Because they find there is a particular section of the LI that need to be looked at. So when you look at the LI, which states, let me read quickly, it says that when in section 3, section 3.1 of the LI says that it's forbidden for anybody to get access to forest reserve, that is to mine in the forest reserve. But in section 2, section 3.2 of the same section also says that of the same law gives the leeway to president to approve in writing a mining company to undertake mining activity in a globally significant biodiversity area in national interest. My concern is what makes a very mining activity a national interest. That is my personal concern. I want to throw out to the public. What makes mining in forest reserve a national interest?
Well,
that is my concern.
I think I can also stand in the position of government to answer
Okay.
that question, because we all know that mining is one of Ghana's largest sources of income or revenue. You know that from mining, government is able to get enough resources or revenue to help in the development or the procedures of governmental, you know, works and other things. So I think that could be one of the main reasons why mining was allowed in our forest reserves. But are you done with your point?
Oh, go on. I'll come back again.
My major concern has to do with the understanding of a forest reserve.
I was just about to hit on that.
When we talk about a reserve, what does it mean? Something that is supposed to be kept, you know, to protect something, basically, or you're online. A reserve. No, you are a dictionary. So that is what a reserve is supposed to do. And a forest is called a reserve because it is designated for conservation and protection of natural resources and ecosystem. And usually they are maintained or governed by governments, let me put it that way. And they manage forest reserves through legislations, ensuring that the land is protected from exploitation and maintained for future generations.
Okay.
And this same LI, as you said, was passed by Parliament.
Yes.
Right? Parliament represents government in a way, right? Before it is passed into law, it is the president that would sign it. So when that was being signed or passed into law, did they think about the future of the generation? They are saying these forest reserves are being put for them. Did they think about them? Because we are all feeling the effects now, the impacts.
That's true.
Well, I think that at the time it was passed, you know, they probably thought that small-scale mining may not have a big impact, much like erosion. It starts out very small, and today look at what, because it's the mining we are even protesting is the small scale one, Galamsey. It's not the large scale mining where we have all these industrial level machinery. This is small scale mining, and look at what it is doing. So I think that at the time they thought that it would not be so impactful on the environment. It's something small. So, but then again, all of this is quite multifaceted. It could be that certain people decided that they were going to pursue this because of their own gains and things like that. And then others too could also say that this forest reserve, maybe there are some minerals there for us that could, you know, benefit all of us. So let us just start to check out what is there and, you know, use it to benefit the country. So it could be a whole lot of things. But then if it's a reserve, why do you even want to touch it? Because, of course, there are other designated mining areas and things. So why then touch the reserves?
So, Yara, you made a point that there are lots of issues, let's say, pertaining to this LI. So my question is, wasn't there any visibility analysis by the people who drafted this LI to Parliament? Didn't they foresee that some years to come, this is where we are going to get to? Parliament, after going through this, didn't they realize that a time is coming that this is the situation we are going to face? So these are personally my question that I believe that it needs to be answered. That is why, as I said, 6 organizations plus the convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey are in court. They are in court. And their issue is about the Section 3(2) of this LI, that it should be looked at. It should be looked at because, and see, the issue here is, we are all talking about Galamsey, small-scale mining. But when these people get licenses into the forest reserve, it gives access to this illegal mining. It gives access to the Galamsey. We know these water bodies, they all flows from the forest reserve down to the various communities we have. So as they do the illegal act, someone might say that the waters are not there. The waters flow from this forest reserve. So as they do the mining there in these water bodies, now we in the communities are being affected.
Sometimes all we see is a river, but we don't see where the source is coming from.
Yes.
And the source is usually from a reserve, a forest reserve, and that is why they are supposed to be protected, not, exploited for our personal gains. And when we were talking about the passage of the law, I won't be surprised that influential or powerful stakeholders would have lobbied, for this to be passed for their own interest, because at the end of the day, they have the money to, import these machineries that they are going to use for the mining activity. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, because when we're discussing Galamsey previously, there was this comment that came that I shouldn't be shocked if I hear that members of parliament are part of what is happening.
Or did the Speaker of Parliament even try to make such?
So I won't be surprised if they were the brains behind this.
But also so my producer sent me something here. This is about the LI, some of the requirements. So what rights are required to conduct mining? And it says here that there are 3 types of rights applicable. A mining lease. B, a restricted mining lease. And C, a small-scale mining license. So a mining lease is granted for an initial period of 30 years and may be renewed before expiry of such period for a further period of no more than 30 years. So basically at least 60 years you can... A restricted mining... Let me finish. A restricted mining lease is a mining lease issued in respect of industrial minerals and is granted for an initial period of no more than 15 years and may be renewed on expiry for a further period of no more than 15 years. Now, for the small-scale mining license, it is granted for an initial period of no more than 5 years and may be renewed on expiry for a further period that the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources may determine.
I'm not surprised that people, when you read the story itself, getting to the end, the man made mention of the fact that after this LI was passed, there was a mad rush for mining leases.
Yes.
So if each company is being granted 50 years to mine,
just imagine. Since 2020, and there's, as you said, 30 years, approximately 30 years, since 2022, and companies have gotten access to our forest reserve. They will mine there for 30 good years.
Bad years.
And we are exactly bad years. And we are talking about this, and people are also saying that no, they believe that we shouldn't put ban on mining activity, but it should be illegal. But these people are those who are who give perpetrators
to identify illegal miners?
Because some of them could even go with the right license.
Exactly.
But they have their side hustlers.
Yes.
What word should we use? Guru boys, that they will use for the small scale, the Galamsey. That those accounts that cannot even be made because it's not going to be the name of the more formal one.
Yeah.
So those monies or the revenue gotten from there will just go quietly into their pockets. Well, these are all allegations. We are not accusing anybody.
Oh, yes. But I'm the last thing, as I said. So these 6 civil society organizations, their concern is that the licenses or such people who are being granted such lease, they should just terminate it. Any company that is mining in our forest reserve, they should terminate the contract. That is their basis of going to court.
We need to protect the little we have.
Yes.
The effects, they are ripple.
Well, we have a few comments here. D&J Venture says, it seems that this government is against anyone who is fighting for better Ghana. Is it that they are in government to destroy everything we have? Good morning to you all. You're all doing marvelously well. Thank you, D&J Ventures. TA says, so many obnoxious laws in our system which need to be scrapped or scrapped completely or reviewed. Then we also have another one. This one is from Rose Entertainment. Clement, it is true. I am with you on that. There are indeed many outdated and unnecessary and overly restrictive laws that can be improved or repealed. In fact, it's a common phenomenon in many legal systems where laws may have been enacted for a specific purpose or circumstances that no longer apply today. Thank you, Rose Entertainment, for your comment as well. And then we also have, we've read this one too. Thank you all for your comments. Let's go quickly to the next story. So this one is about the University of Ghana. So the University of Ghana postpones commencement of the 2024-2025 academic year. The University of Ghana has delayed the start of the 2024-2025 academic year due to the ongoing teacher union strike. Originally, classes were set to begin today, September 26, 2024, and special programs will continue as planned, and a new start date for the academic year will be shared soon. The university is working to resolve the strike's impact on the academic calendar. And then this is a quote, and it says, "It is announced for the attention of students and other stakeholders that the commencement of the 2024-2025 academic year has been postponed. This is due to the ongoing strike action by various employee groupings. Special programs will, however, proceed as scheduled, and a new date for the commencement of the 2024-2025 academic year will be announced in due course." So, yes, some of the teacher unions are striking. I think FUSAG, there's this other one, something, yeah, TEU, then the UOG.
TUSAG.
What?
We have TUSAG.
TUSAG, and then there's this other one, senior, SSA, UOG.
Yes. Senior Staff Association.
Yeah, senior staff association especially. They've all come together and they are on strike, mainly about their allowances as usual. And it seems that this is a running theme for probably this whole year. Everybody seems to be striking about something.
When it comes to strike, I always say that we should always look at, both ends, the receiving end and also those affected. You see, let's look at the ethical consideration of this story. Teachers are striking, and it is going to affect students. That's what everyone is going to say. But sometimes I always want to say that you are striking for your own, allowances, blah, 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 blah. But how does that affect we, the students, who do not have any direct control over, whatever situation is happening? Why should we strike at our expense?
So, Mimi, can I come in?
Come in, my teacher.
Let's assume, of which Clock TV never disappoint, that Clock TV fails to give you an allowance that you are entitled to per the appointment letter. Will you come to work? Assuming they fail to give you such allowance. Let's say clothing allowance or something. You might end up saying that, since I don't have such thing, I will not come to it because I have nothing to wear. At the end of the day, it's going to affect our viewers who watch Cocoa Digest.
Yes.
So the teachers are not probably doing that because they want to punish students.
Yes.
They are doing that because it was stipulated in the contract, the agreement between government. So if something is stipulated in the contract, then government should be able to adhere to it because I have performed my part of the contract. So you to perform your part of the contract. When you study company law, I did quite of that.
Yes.
And they will tell you, so they will tell you that when there is a breach of contract, the other party need to do what? To indemnify the other party. And this has been something that has been happening over the years. It has been happening for quite long. And government should be up and doing and listen to teachers. They should listen to teachers because it seems like government is not paying attention to teachers in this very country. To an extent that most people would say that I will not be a teacher because of how they treat teachers. So, and it's quite funny that the only language government listen to is strike. So it's not intentional that they are going on strike. It's something they are supposed to enjoy. And since you're not giving it to me, let me sit home, then I get
Why are you sounding like someone I know? But you see, the issue is, yes, I understand your point. In as much as your, propositions are valid, reasons why you need to strike are all valid. I also think teachers, in particular, should reconsider their decisions when it comes to striking, because these are the people we are training to become future leaders. You are striking because you need your allowances.
Yes.
Yet, we, the students, you have an ethical responsibility to teach us.
Yes.
Whether good or bad.
Yes.
It's just like marriage. However it goes.
In the contract, I think it was never stated whether good or bad. The contract talks about I'm performing my part of the duty, so give me what's due me. So I have performed my task for quite long, and you're not giving what due me.
So
I have come to the table.
The only the only thing that we can do.
Striking is not the only thing.
Yes.
And they've been to the negotiation table for long and nothing has come out. So, you see, Mimi, let me say something. I have taught before.
Thank you.
And being in the classroom is very tedious. What should the Robisa students say? Do you understand?
No.
Yes, sir.
And
whole
you see,
show.
exactly. So you see how the frustration a teacher will go through in that instance, of which other occupation won't do that. So yes, we understand students are out there. I also have a concern that the various teachers should also equally look at it because most students have prepared coming for the new academic year, and they should just hear a news yesterday that this is what has happened. So the question is, when are they going to call off the strike? So students will just be wondering, should I go and work? Because people don't have money. People can't take up themselves. So they are doing it themselves. So the question is, should I go work? Should I do this? Should I sit home? And that kind of happen.
Well, what Mimi was also saying, that yes, the lecturers should consider the students. The government which has employed these lecturers should also consider these students, because you employed me. You claimed to have the capacity to give me ABC as my conditions of service to make my job seamless. And I have agreed, much like even the marriage thing you were talking about, the relationship thing. This boy campaigns to you, tells you, I'll do this for you. You get in there, he's not doing anything. Would you want to stay?
I'll back
Of course not. You would also protest that you promised me ABC, and where are these things? And I mean, the last time we were saying that some of these allowances, maybe they themselves can take care of them on their own. But then it goes beyond that. Because why would you tell me that I am entitled to so and so to, give me some ease of access in my life or in my job, and then I'm doing the job, I'm doing my part, I'm coming to lectures, marking scripts, all these students. The University of Ghana is really big. I remember my time, some of the courses, the class would overflow because that's how many we were. And these lecturers still come to class, they teach, they mark scripts, and then their allowances are nowhere to be found. It is warranted that they would want to do something to get the government's attention. And if the government is thinking about the students, then they would also rise up to try to do something about this. We have some amount of money and support coming from various parts, of our system for the SMEs. Why don't we get something like that for allowances for teachers and the rest? If we do value education, then we should put in as much effort as we are putting into the business, sector in our country here. We should do the same for the education too, isn't it?
Sure.
That is it.
And we also have a comment here. This one says, it's from Obiba Wilson. He says, I think this is about the mining issue. The fact is that the Constitution, bylaws, and most allies are passed to favor certain class of people at the top. It is deliberate and crafted intention. Hey, you people. Thank you very much for your comment. So let's just hope that, our teachers or our lecturers' allowances will be met, because these lecturers, some of them even tend to help certain needy students. And maybe they use these allowances as some sort of top-up to be able to help them. So we may think that, it's just car allowance or clothing allowance or some accommodation allowance, but it may go beyond that. So just as we are feeling for the students, we should also feel for these lecturers, and then we should also feel for the government. It's so many parts of the whole thing. Yes.
I think they have to be considerate. The teachers also have to be considerate, because there are lots of things happening in the country at the moment, and I don't think it is the right time to strike.
I don't think you should toe that line at all. No.
Oh, seriously, because I've been a student before, and I know how bad these things affect our academics. I won't lie.
Yes,
that is why
do.
I am saying that they should also be considered. At least strike when it's vacation, during vacation, so that
I understand that.
So that even if your demands are not met, you
how do I strike during vacation?
No, wait. So you are striking. So if your demands are not met, you are still striking.
So wait. If they are not met till reopening, then what happens?
Still strike. Will not come to school.
But that's what exactly is happening. Because
I'm trying to defend them, but it's not working.
The students were on vacation. They were supposed to resume today. And now the resumption date has been postponed, you see. And I was even going to say that, Mimi, you made me forget. Oh, goodness, I forgot. It's fine.
Yeah.
So regardless, we hope that these lecturers' demands are going to be met. Yes, you were saying that they should strike, but if they strike during vacation, even now they have gone on strike during vacation. They say strike when the iron is hot. Strike when you know that this strike is going to make impact, it's going to hit them. Because when they know that, yes, the academic year has begun, students have to get their education, and then because of a lack somewhere, they are not going to be able to receive their education. Then it may put the government on their toes, maybe set some fire on their butts for them to get into action. So
I think in a way, they have also been strategic about their strikes. So I will not talk much.
So yes, quickly, the last story says, appointing ministers from parliament is a way of weakening parliament. This is from INUSAH FUSENI. So INUSAH FUSENI, ex-minister of lands and natural resources, says appointing ministers from parliament weakens its oversight role, creating a conflict of interest and undermining accountability. According to him, this practice hampers parliament's ability to effectively oversee the executive branch as it is expected of it. The former Tamale Central MP explained that since the president selects ministers from MPs in parliament, the potential for MPs to transition into executive positions diminishes parliament's capacity to hold the executive accountable. It's as if, especially this week actually, I'm just getting things I learned in school, because this is basically about separation of powers and checks and balances.
Yes.
And I remember, if my memory serves me well, help me brain. I remember back in school, they were talking about, the three organs of government or arms of government, where each of them is supposed to be autonomous. So like the three of us here, we are to be held accountable to each other. I'm not your boss, you're not my boss. We are colleagues on the same level. Whatever you do, I should be able to speak to it, check you. The same for you, the same for me. And we have a system here where the legislature and the executive are seemingly, connected or joined together, which in some systems works very well, but in other systems it does not work very well, because there may be conflicts of interest at some point, because like we have the judiciary on its own. The judiciary should be able to check the legislature or even check the executive too. But now we have an issue here where the executive now has hands in the legislature. How then will they be able to check and then hold them accountable or even separate the powers properly? There was even an argument that if they are totally separated, we'll be having too many ministries and ministers all over the place. But then again, when Ghana became a democracy, when the ministries were being created, we didn't have as many ministries as we have today. If, we go by what INUSAH FUSENI is saying, that we should separate them, these ministers or ministries some of these ministries could be joined together to form one ministry and then have a minister on it. So that if, let's say, we have right now approximately 100 ministries, we can drop it to 50, where we would now have just separated when we separate the executive and the legislature, we would have only 50 ministers, and we have our MPs still operating. So it's not going to be that it will become a financial burden on the government where they have to pay these people,
Separate.
Because some of these MPs who are also ministers, it is alleged that they are paid in both capacities. It's not one salary.
Of course.
So if it's separated, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. But Yara, let me say something about this. So my question is, why is Honorable INUSAH FUSENI saying this? Why now? Is it because yes, the why? Is it because he has already enjoyed the capacity as a minister of lands and natural resources, right? And also Tamale Central MP. Yes, he was Tamale Central MP. Is that the reason why? Has he realized something from that trend? He was also a member of parliament. What is it? Let me say, he's saying this because of experience. If so, personally, I'll agree with him. But if it's otherwise, then I think it wouldn't sound really good. When you go to 1992 Constitution, per practice of 1992 Constitution, it is stipulated in the Constitution that ministers should be appointed, some should be appointed from the Parliament. Let me quote. In the 1992 Constitution, Article 78 of the 1992 Constitution, 78(1) says that the President shall, with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint such number of ministers of state as may be necessary for the efficient running of the state.
Yes.
And 78.2 says a majority of ministers of state shall be appointed from among members of Parliament.
Yes.
So coming in, if Honorable INUSAH FUSENI is saying that, meaning that our constitution should be looked at, it should be reviewed,
Yes.
so that such article would be re-looked at very well, because such article gives the president the power to appoint people or appoint members of Parliament as ministers of state.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Honorable INUSAH FUSENI, because it weakens Parliament.
Yes.
Example, I'm a member of Parliament for, let's say, Koliklote, and I have a duty to perform to my people in the constituency. But since I have a ministerial role, sometimes about a whole 6 months,
Yeah.
I'm not even in a constituency. So people ask, where is the minister? Where is our MP? These are questions that we need to ask. You raise a concern that, yes, it's going to bring that kind of checks and balances are not there. Yes, they will not be there, because I'm a member of Parliament and I'm enjoying from the executive arm of government. I'm a cabinet member. Yaira, do you expect me to come out and expose the government?
Well,
that is a question that I think viewers should answer. But Yaira, in summary, what I would say that, yes, this has a positive effect. It equally has a negative effect. The positive side of this very issue is because it's easily facilitates policy making or implementing policies in terms of government, because since I happen to be a minister of, let's say, roads, and I'm also part of the executive, and I'm also a member of Parliament, anything relating to roads, I easily would like to make sure it goes through the process as soon as possible. So there's a positive aspect, but the negative aspect is too much.
Yeah. And, you know, as you mentioned the 1992 Constitution, I remember that the Constitution was put that way in certain ways, giving the president some amount of power that was a little too much because of the transition from the military rule to democracy, where the president needed some form of security. So he had that power to appoint people because he needed to put people around him that could be trusted, because they had just transitioned from a military rule to democracy. And so, as you said, the constitution needs to be looked at again so that some of these powers could be shared, and then some of these things, because the president has the power to appoint even members of the judiciary, even members of the executive and the legislature. So how then are they going to be able to keep him in check if already, in a way, they are shackled to the president? So that is something that needs to be looked at. Because of time, we will pick this conversation up. Or, okay, Mimi wants to give one last contribution.
On the underperformance of a member of Parliament, if he doubles as a minister, I will beg to differ, because I have seen members of Parliament who are performing very well as ministers, and you don't have any issue with them. A typical example is Honorable Ambrose Derry. When he was Interior Minister, we all saw the security reforms he brought into the country, and also his constituency, Nandom, where I come from. So I have to speak on that. Producer is alerting us that it is time.
I think what Mimi is saying, everybody would like to say something about who A or B, but all what we are trying to say is that such law in the constitution needs to be looked at. Yes,
let's take our comments quickly and then we wrap up. And then we have our insightful conversation coming up on the lifestyle segment with the general pastor of the Winners Chapel here in Ghana, right? Yes. National pastor. So Rose Entertainment says, all schools are on vacation. Why put pressure on the students? That's a very big question. Then Anointing Arthur says, I'm late today. Oh, you can always rewatch the live stream. And then this one is from Obiba. He says, Mimi Pa, what is the essence of a strike if the impact can't be felt? I work on campus, and there are lots of bad working conditions that can't be voiced out because of the fear of intimidation and victimization. Thank you so much for your comments. This brings us to the end of the online and newspaper review with two of my co-hosts in the persons of Miss Miriam Abnadidi and Mr. Clement Yabankwe. As always, it's always a refreshing conversation with you guys. Thank you so much. Up next is the lifestyle segment. Like we said, we are celebrating our very own Bishop David Oyedepo. He's celebrating his 70th birthday. So Mimi and her guest will be here to just give us the whole gist of the celebration. Maybe we can join the Winners Chapel Ghana and even across the world to celebrate our very dear pastor. We'll be right back.